No, but I didn't set the boundaries because then if he got angry, then he would abuse me even more. We don't set the boundaries with the fear that people will leave us. But when we don't set the boundaries, people walk all over us.
Sometimes people are so much happier after divorce. Why did they initially suffer so much?
When the word divorce is actually presented to you, we can't take it. We can't take being rejected. We are hardwired for bonding.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing that we are really alone these days?
It's a gift. It's not easy being with people. People are complicated. One person's lonely is another person's freedom.
How much time it really takes for people to move on?
It really depends on how strong your perspective towards the rest of your life is. Whatever lessons I could learn with you being present in my life, I've learnt. Now the rest of the lessons I will learn in your absence. My lessons continue. A great exercise that women and men can do if they are going through a separation or a divorce or loss is...
Denmark has one of the highest divorce rates in the world. Funnily, it's also one of the happiest countries in the world.
See, most people will stay in really bad marriages because they feel like their children will suffer if they get divorced. Children are not suffering just because there's a divorce. Children are suffering if they see two parents unhappy, fighting and bickering the whole time. Then they pick up that vibe. Women are very, very simple as well. It's just that...
So I'm at that stage and age in life where a lot of old friends are going through separation, divorce, loss of partners. And there's a lot of new beginnings and uncertainty in the air. I'm also realizing that not everyone is equipped to navigate through these complex processes. So this is where my dear friend, the beautiful Kavyal, steps in. And I can't even begin to imagine how many people you might have helped navigate through this separation and loss and the pain and the suffering that comes from it. And I know for a fact that you do it with utmost compassion, love, true wisdom, empathy, and all heart. So this podcast, I'm really looking forward to also learning a lot about what it is like, divorces, separation, loss in today's world. Thank you for being here, and I present you the one and only, the wonderful Kavyal Sedani.
Thank you, Satya.
Kavyal, one of the first things I want to start with is that we notice that sometimes people are so much happier after divorce, right? So why did they initially suffer so much?
Rejection of any form sends the same messages in the body that physical pain does. And rejection is all about the ego. It's feeling that, oh, this partner doesn't want me anymore. And the whole story that we create around ourselves and how amazing we are and how perfect we are for somebody else. And now to have the whole damn thing shattered. For a girl specifically, from the day she is, she's found her senses, the family starts talking about her marriage.
In our culture, for sure, yes.
In our culture. They don't train her for life, they train her for marriage, right? So, possibly since the age of 6 and 7, while she's playing ghar ghar with, some boy or some girl in the colony, she's building up these dreams in her head of how perfect and how amazing and how loving and, functional her marriage is going to be. When the word divorce is actually presented to you, it's like a million bulbs crashing at the same time, all around you.
Blackout.
Full blackout. And the sound, can you hear the sound of a million bulbs going, ting, all falling on the floor, and you're literally walking on them, hurting yourself every step of the way. We can't take it. We can't take being rejected. We are hardwired for bonding. In our tribes, we were, if we had certain rules to fit into our tribe. If we didn't follow those rules, the tribe would throw us out. And then we would have to be on our own. In the jungles, if we had to be on our own years ago, it would mean death. Today, we are never alone. But being thrown out of a system or even being proposed that let's step out of the system feels like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. The brain is still very primitive. It'll still take you to that same pain. Till you give yourself a year, 2 years, and then you realize, bloody hell, this is fun.
This is great.
this is manageable. This is good. And I can do things, I'm not dead. There is life.
So it's not a cliche when we say time is a great healer, right?
It's perfect. But of course, if you've broken a bone and you just allow time to heal it,
It might not join back
It's
correctly.
not going to join back.
That's
right?
where you
So
need
that's
some
where the process of healing comes in. That let us set it. Let us set that pain into something that begins to make sense to you. And then we give it time.
reform and restructure the life by itself.
Yeah. Every breakup, every divorce, it feels like a sunset, but it's actually a dawn. And a sunset and a dawn both feel exactly the same way. They look exactly the same way, and they both need each other. So it's actually a new beginning.
Beautiful. You said the two things that I picked up when you were talking. One was that we are rarely alone. So is that a good thing or a bad thing that we are rarely alone these days?
It's a gift if you can understand that being surrounded by love and by people is our greatest advantage as human beings. And it's a curse if you can't understand the love behind people's actions and words. And, it's not easy being with people. People are complicated. But I wish it was taught to us in schools and colleges that being alone is
It's a superpower.
It is a superpower.
Right?
It is.
Because I think where we make the mistake and this common confusion is simple, is that we think alone is lonely.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we are not taught to be
One
alone.
person's lonely is another person's freedom.
There you go. There you go. The other thing I picked up was you said, and then a year or two goes by, and then you look back and you say, bloody hell, this is great. Do you have a set formula for how much time it really takes for people to move on? Like, is it always different for people when they're ready to move on and when they're ready to meet a new person, if they're in need for another relationship, for example? Is there a formula for this? You've dealt with so many cases, right?
It really depends on how strong your perspective towards the rest of your life is. There are 5 stages of loss. Okay, the
Right.
first stage is denial. I don't even want to accept that this is happening to me. I could spend 6 years in denial. Okay, or I could spend 1 month in denial and then move on to the next. After denial comes anger. Now I'm angry. How dare you? I'm angry at God, I'm angry at my spouse, I'm angry at my children, my in-laws, everybody who I can point a finger on, because I want to make sense of this story. Why did this happen? This wasn't supposed to go down this way. After anger is depression. After you've thrown all that
The sadness
aggression
hits you.
out, then the sadness hits you. Then you find yourself in a deep dark hole and you just want to cry and you feel like people don't understand you and this was unfair. After the depression is going to come negotiation. Then maybe you'll find some faith, you'll find some books, you'll find some friends, some counseling, and then it's like,
You cut some deals with yourself also.
yeah,
No?
maybe this didn't work, but maybe that worked better, and you start seeing the upside down, right?
perspective,
The new perspective, and after that comes acceptance. So a beautiful thing that everybody can do if they really want to. I don't need them to rush through these 5 stages, but to go through these 5 stages in a reasonable amount of time is stop telling your story from the victim perspective.
So which perspective should they tell the story from?
From a growth perspective, that okay, this has happened. Okay, I can't undo this. I have tried every single thing that I could in the book. I have gone to counseling. I've tried speaking to my partner. I've tried negotiating. I've tried 1, 2, 3, everything. Now there's nothing left. Okay, now I accept that this has come to me. And for me, in my head, divorce it's not the end of things. In my head, divorce simply is that whatever lessons I could learn with you being present in my life, I've learnt. Now the rest of the lessons I will learn in your absence. My lessons continue.
Yeah, that's the other side of the...
Just the other side of it. And now I have to learn to be without you, because in our culture, what happens is that a lot of people, a lot of women, they will love to outsource the responsibility of being taken care of. There are certain things that each person needs to do for themselves. But when I don't do something for myself and I outsource it to my partner will disappoint me. And they don't disappoint me because they don't love me. They disappoint me because it's my lesson that, why aren't you doing your job on your own?
What are these things that people typically outsource?
You make me happy. You make me stable. You make me the house. You take care of the children.
You messed up.
You messed up, right? A lot of blame, shame, responsibility is
Guilt,
shoved on to the
trust
other
on-
partner.
yeah.
But we need to look at, how did I co-create this? Tali ek haath se nahi bajti.
Simple.
Right? So even if you say, no, but my partner was abusive, how could I have co-created that? Well, you allowed that.
What was your
You
threshold of
didn't,
abuse? Yeah.
yes, you didn't set your boundaries. No, but I didn't set the boundaries because then if he got angry, then he would abuse me even more. We don't set the boundaries with the fear that people will leave us. But when we don't set the boundaries, people walk all over us and then we have no choice but to leave.
Yeah, I saw this funny little, not funny actually, quite a serious little video where there's this lady in an audience asking some teacher or somebody that, no, how much abuse can one take
Yeah.
before one needs to walk? And he says, how much poison should one drink before one dies?
Yeah.
You know, so
But the twisted thing here is that a lot of people believe that only the one that loves you will abuse you. So they want to see love even there because they're so scared of being alone. Clearly, I can see in somebody else's life that that's not love. And yet you can't see it yourself. You're the one being burnt and you can't
just
see
simply
it.
say toxic, for example. And wow. So coming to this post separation. No, before that, I want to ask you, like, these 5 stages that you describe. You said 5 stages of grief or loss, right?
5 stages of grief.
Grief.
And loss.
And so this would apply also to the loss of a partner, the death of a partner.
Yes,
Yeah?
yes,
very-
absolutely. These 5 stages of loss will apply not only to divorce, but loss of a partner, loss of a job, loss of a home, loss of a dream.
That's what I want to know.
Everything.
Yeah, it applies. Yeah, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So what is there how should one conduct oneself after this? Like after, let's talk about, say, a separation. And I don't want to use the word divorce over and over because these days not everything is a divorce. There's a lot of just separations happening. So what is the right conduct? What is the right frame of mind to come to? You've touched upon it a little bit, that see it as an opportunity of growth. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
First of all, when you stop telling the story from the victim perspective, new things will open up. Okay. So I always tell people that your divorce or your separation is going to be a litmus test of your character. So don't disappoint yourself. Don't make a fool of yourself. Do not go into
your
the
own
courts.
eyes. No.
Yes, because you will never be able to look back at yourself with grace. Because you would have realized that in that moment of anger, you were not the person you were supposed to be. So do not disappoint yourself. Hold yourself with grace and dignity. Do not tell your story from a victim perspective. Do not go out into the world shaming and blaming your partner and spreading stories about them because you're in pain. Because maybe you will get the attention for a week or two, and after that, you're just trauma dumping on the other people, right? And eventually, you're going to need all of those people to help you put yourself
Rebuild
back
your,
together.
the tribe.
Right? You don't want to cut cords and sever them so badly that you can't put them back together. So if you can think that what is the kind of relationship I would like to have with this ex now in the next 3 years so that we can continue to be co-parents or we can continue to be civil, what kind of kindness can I extend that, okay, maybe the love is out, the intimacy is out, maybe we are angry at this point of time, but maybe 3 years from now, you and me should be able to sit at a coffee shop and, watch our kids play and just discuss how's your life going and how's
Joyfully.
mine going.
Yeah.
Right? And that would be beautiful if people can extend that kind of kindness towards each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there is much awareness around that these days. I think I'm talking about in the big cities where things can get very messy, very nasty. But I think this awareness, especially in the co-parenting scene, like, that I'm in Denmark, right? Denmark has one of the highest divorce rates in the world. Did you know that? Funnily, it's also one of the happiest countries in the world.
Wow.
It's always in the top 2 or 3 countries in the world in the happiness index. So I've always tried to understand, okay, this goes back to a question, so we seem to be very happy after the divorce.
Yeah.
Denmark is also very happy because they also have very high consumption of coffee and sugar and happy pills. That's
Okay.
another story. But but there is a lot of divorce and there is no stigma attached to divorce.
Yeah.
That is one of the big things that you see in our culture. I went through a divorce when I was 24 or 25, and now I'm very happily married and everything. And luckily, all these things have fallen into place. We found our space. We remained good friends and everything. But imagine at that time, the stigma. I was the first person I met in my entire life
Who was
who
going
was
through a
divorced,
divorce.
who was going through a divorce. I had not met anybody. None of my parents' friends, not a neighbor, not a family member, nobody I knew. I was the only one. There was one distant cousin somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's another time. So it's also nice to see that we are having this dialogue right now, and we're talking about how to conduct oneself and everything. I want to touch upon the co-parenting part of it. You want to shed some light on that because this is a big struggle, In the West, it works very simple. 1 week, 1 week. There is from day one or day two already. It's a given that you will have to co-parent because there's no other way.
Yeah.
You don't have a huge support system, and this one will take care, that one will take care. That is not there. So by default, you end up maturing into co-parenting.
Yeah.
It's not so easy here because we have these big support systems and nana, nani, this, that is going on. So what has been your experience, the challenges that come to deciding about how this co-parenting is going to be in the future?
See, most people will stay in really bad marriages because they feel like their children will suffer if they get divorced.
That's the thing.
And I have always noticed that children are not suffering just because there's a divorce. Children are suffering if they see two parents unhappy, fighting and bickering the whole time. Then they pick up that vibe. But if you've divorced each other, you've separated, and they have two happy parents and two happy homes, then they're happy kids. Okay, so they will find their way. A lot of women also feel tremendously guilty about asking for a divorce, saying, how can I do this to my child? And I always take them back to the spiritual aspect of it, that your child chose this environment. Your child has chosen this birth knowing exactly what's going to happen, and they are going to grow from this environment as well. So you don't have to give your child everything perfect on the platter.
Yeah.
Because if
You
you
don't
give
have to
them
bubble
everything
wrap them.
perfect,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
they won't have nothing to work on.
Yeah.
Right? It is their sacred journey as well.
That's it. It's in their karma, it's in their journey that they need to take that.
Absolutely.
And however painful it might seem in the beginning,
Absolutely.
you understand that is what is going to shape them, right?
Yes, and then the woman ends up feeling like the first 20 years of my life I gave away to my parents' joy, the other 10 years I gave away to my husband's joy, now the rest of my life I will give away for my children's joy. What about you? If you are not happy, you're going to be resenting your parents, you're going to be resenting your ex-husband, you're going to be resenting your children as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So you have
They took
a
my
right
life away. Yeah, exactly.
to a second chance. You have a right to recreating your story from a glorious point of view. A great example or a great exercise that women and men can do if they are going through a separation or a divorce or loss is write down a beautiful letter from the future version of you to the current version of you, talking about, hey Kavyal, this is Kavyal from 2030, and I just want you to know that your life is phenomenal. And the divorce happened, this happened, that happened, and after that you grew this way. There is not only post-traumatic stress, there's also post-traumatic growth.
Oh,
Right?
that's
So
great. Yeah.
describe the growth. Describe exactly every single thing that you've done. Because a person who can sit in the present and visualize a fantastic future will create that future. But if you just sit in your present and you keep looking at the past, you will never get over it.
And you will recreate the past actually.
100%.
In just another way.
Then it just becomes generational trauma, and then your children carry it for you, and your grandchildren carry it for you.
So what you said right in the beginning of this this question was that some people stay in these toxic relationships or marriages because what will happen with the children, and it's so nice to think that okay, then I'd rather that energy that I'm putting in just holding on to that relationship for the sake of the children, and nobody's winning, no, everybody's losing in that setup. Rather save that energy and help build two happy homes, like you said.
Yes.
It would be so nice to co-create those two happy homes in whatever way, keeping that respectful distance because it hasn't worked. And what about these beautiful friendships that happen? Like
After divorce.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just about to come to that when you said that it's beautiful to create two happy homes. So often we've seen that after a couple gets divorced, maybe after their anger, their aggression, their sadness is subsided, they reconnect. And it just starts with a, hey, how you doing? Happy birthday. I hope you're okay. And they find a phenomenal friendship after, say, a year or two of the divorce. And then they're reconnected again. They may not choose to get married again.
No.
They will discover...
But that also happens.
That can happen, but they may discover that we are so good as friends. And we are so good as, I love sharing my day with you, or, I love sharing where I'm having trouble, and then you can support me. And that friendship comes because they started talking again. And they, without the fear of, oh, if I say this to my husband, he's going to say this and he's going to judge me. Now he's no longer your husband. So you can talk.
Yeah.
And he will receive it because he knows that you're not his wife, and you can reconnect as friends. And that gives birth
and
to
here's
brilliant
this
friendships.
person who's seen you through everything. He's seen
Yes.
all shades of you.
Yeah.
You've seen the happy times, and then you've seen the worst times.
Yeah.
And you've said nasty things to each other maybe at some point. So here's this person who's seen all sides. So the pretense is gone.
Yeah.
And now there is no identification with that idea of marriage. A very dear friend in Denmark, actually, and she was going through this long marriage, grown-up children, life going on for years, but unhappy. And all they did was they moved to the ground floor and the first floor. That's all they have done. She's got the first floor, he's got the ground floor, and they are breathing, and they have decided, and they have kind of agreed that, okay, we are not going to see anybody else right now because that's too early. So let us just agree to this arrangement. The children have moved out, but they come home when they have to come home. But there's shanti, there's peace in their lives. And all they did was just separate that space a little bit. All they needed was a little distance,
Because marriage is made up of such tiny triggers. Satya, I remember when a couple of years ago I went to Coimbatore for a workshop. Now, Coimbatore is a small place and they put me up in a very small hotel. But it was just me. And I opened the hotel room and I put my bags and I'm like, clean bed, clean bathroom, no children messing around, no one sharing my bed. Oh my God, this is amazing.
A twinge of guilt for a moment, but then goes away very fast.
But an everyday marriage gets aggravated by
Dirty
you still
socks.
haven't put your bag in the right place. Every day I have to tell you this. How many years do I have to explain this to you? Don't leave your money outside. It's the small things that eventually become the big things.
Everybody speaks, yes.
Yes. So when the small things are taken care of and each one has their own spaces, beautiful things can grow.
And Kavyal, I know that on a daily basis you work with numerous cases of divorce, separation and everything. And have you noticed that, is there a trend that the women are initiating the divorce a little more than the men are in these times?
Yes.
Yeah, can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, women are not so dependent anymore.
There you go.
They're a lot more educated. They can make as much money as their men can make. They can buy their own homes. They know that, they don't need one man to have sex with for the rest of their lives. Everything is easily available. And if they are the ones that are, carrying on the major part of the responsibility, physical, emotional, financial, home, office, everything, then they'll be like, I don't need to put up with this. And very often, we also fight the battles, the incomplete battles of our parents in our own relationship. So if somebody's mother couldn't leave, and if they have even the slightest bit of inconvenience that looks like the inconvenience that the mother had, they will say like, listen, I'm not putting up with this. My mother put up with this for the rest of her life and I'm not doing this.
So that becomes the springboard.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So sometimes all of our decisions are not our decisions alone. They're generational decisions of what my parent couldn't do, I will do.
100%.
Okay, so women are no longer tolerant. They feel like, why should I? Why should I?
Yeah. And not to generalize, but what are men doing wrong in relationships that is leading to separation? What are women doing wrong? Do you have an angle on that?
Women assume that men are like them. Okay? Women can very often read the room very well. They're very intuitive about what do you need, what do you want. They will see one pattern and they know that when you come back at this time, this is the cup of coffee you want, blah, blah, blah. And they assume that men should be able to do the same thing. And I tell this to women. I tell this to women very often. Please treat your partner like a waiter. When you go to a restaurant, you have to see them like a waiter. You have to tell them exactly, this is what I want. I want a cappuccino. I want it warmer than usual. I do not want the sugar in it. And you have to give them specific instructions every single time.
Clear communication.
They are not going to read your mind. You can't go to a restaurant and say, what do you think I feel like eating? Oh, I was here 3 days ago. Why don't you bring that to me? No, it doesn't work like that. Men work brilliantly when they are told what to do.
Yeah, that is. But it's so fantastic when they actually get the coffee right without.
It is. It is. Right? But it is our expectations that take us down, right? So express what you want, without any guilt, and you may have to express that 200 times. I've been married 23 years, and saying I love you doesn't come very naturally to my husband. And I've stopped saying I love you. I now tell him, tell me that you love me. And he says, I love you.
Okay.
But that I must be saying that 3 times in a day. Tell me that you love me.
Yeah. Claim it.
Right? You have to claim it without, saying why, but no, but like this, no, but like that. You want it, ask for it, you will get it. The men are very happy to please you. Sometimes they don't know how to. Or sometimes they cut off because
So you're actually
they
doing them a
feel
favor. You're
like,
hand-holding them into teaching them how to...
yes. And they cut off because they feel like instead of just asking me for what you want, don't nag, don't get sarcastic,
Yeah.
don't get
Just
defensive.
be clear. Tell me what you want.
Be
No?
clear.
Yeah.
Even if you have to do that 100 times, be clear, you will get it. Don't beat around the bush.
That's right. So, what are the men doing wrong in all of this?
They're not listening to the
They're
women.
not listening to them. Okay.
They're not listening. They feel like, oh, women are so complicated. They say no when they want to say yes.
And that's become like a stereotype thing, like the jokes on it and everything. It's also tiring after a point because it is not really that.
Women are very, very simple as well. It's just that you don't want to hear them. Men very often complain, oh, she's been going on about the same thing for the last 30 years. She's been going on about the same problem for the last 30
Then
years
why
because
aren't
you didn't resolve it.
Yeah. You're not
It's
listening.
unresolved.
You're not seeing it.
You can't just expect them to say, get on with it now, it's okay, accept it. No, everything can't be accepted.
In fact, when you talked about those 5 stages, acceptance came last.
Yes.
It's very easy for us to pass. When we give unsolicited advice to people, first we tell them, accept it. No?
Yeah.
Ye to ho gaya, abhi accept kar lo. We say that as the first thing. And here you're saying that is actually the last thing.
Yes.
You go through all of this and come to arrive at acceptance.
You will. And most of the times, if the woman is getting angry, the first stage is denial, the second is anger. If a woman gets angry, the man gets even more angry. Like, how the hell are you getting angry? How can you get angry? You have no right to get angry. And if the man gets angry, then it's just like, yeah, but he's a man. He is going to get angry, right? Yeah. So women don't have the permission to express themselves. That's why their emotions sit in their body and cause disease.
Right. Yeah, Kash. And today morning I was talking to my teacher in Bangalore, and I told him that we're going to record a little podcast and we're going to talk about these things. And he says, yes, talk about how this unresolved emotions are really creating tremendous amount all the psychosomatic diseases, all the autoimmune. This is just old repressed anger most of the time.
Yeah, and every time a woman feels like a man has done her wrong, she will give birth to fibroids, cysts in her body,
for sure.
everywhere.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, so when you feel, I just got this cyst here, I just got this fibroid here, and some man may or may not have done you wrong, but you're holding it in your head that he did me wrong. Yeah. Very often,
there's a dispute in the second chapter.
We are not taking responsibility for where we've done ourselves wrong. So it's very easy to blame the man. The man is not always to blame.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's true.
Brothers, listen. Yeah. No? So, Kavyal, we've talked so much about separation, loss, divorce. And sometimes people are in these relationships which are not working out. Very clearly it's not working out. And there's a lot of pain and anger and suffering and frustration in those relationships. But there's also this longing to make it work. Not everybody wants to separate. Not everybody wants a divorce. And then they sign up for something called couples therapy. You must be doing a lot of couple therapy. What happens in couples therapy?
Each person is brought to me separately. And I speak to them. I understand their history, their concerns, what are their negotiables, what are their non-negotiables, what are the pain points. The problem is that when a couple sits together, they eat up a lot of their words. They can't express themselves. They feel like she will get hurt, she will get angry, there's no point. So when you bring them in separately, they will speak. And the agenda is clear. And we ask them a lot of questions that they've never thought of before. Right? If I have to ask somebody, how have you co-created this? And they'll be like, what? Are you saying yes? How did you co-create it? And then there are tools and techniques to get them to see their part.
Instead of asking, how did it come to this?
Yes.
How did you also build this?
Yeah. So when we get them to reflect on where did I go wrong, then we also nudge them to say, okay, can we try and correct this? Try this for a week, both of you. This is where you were going wrong. This is where you were going wrong. Why don't you try correcting this? When was the last time you made eye contact? When was the last time you had sex? When was the last time you gave each other some appreciation? And we bring back those cords which have been cut off a long time ago. Because there is an intent to get back together,
That's
right?
it,
They've
that's
just
it,
lost
yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
They've just lost the way.
Just need a little hand-holding,
You
yeah.
just bring them together very gently. You use humor, you use, understanding. You tell them that they're not the only people going through it, and you get them to understand how a mind of a man works, how a mind of a woman works, what do they need. You get them out of their own position of pain, and they're like, okay, this doesn't seem that hard. It doesn't seem that hard.
Doable, yeah.
Maybe we can try it out.
Has it ever happened that a couple has come to you? This I'm just randomly asking, like that they've come to you with the intent of getting back, but you could clearly see that this is not going to work,
Yes,
and you told them
yes.
to just, okay, guys,
Yes,
call it.
I have told them, I'm like, I don't see, there's a very beautiful metaphor that if a bird falls in love with a fish, one of them is going to die if they have to be together. Right?
True, yeah.
So if their life purposes of their life plans are very different, one wants to go abroad and live the life of, a photographer or be a hippie, and the other one wants 4 children and she wants a committed man, it's not going to work. One of them is always going to feel like, I couldn't live my life because of you. So we got to see that, do they have a common life purpose? Do they have a common visualization for the next 8 years, 10 years, 15 years?
A shared vision.
A shared vision. When people don't have that and they're very rigid about their own visions, if they feel very passionately about their own visions, then I'm forced to ask them that maybe you guys should consider not being together and exploring your life and fulfilling what you want. You explore yours, fulfill what you want. Then maybe we can reconnect in a few
or
years.
just
and
lovingly
see.
set each other free
Yes.
at this stage. Yeah.
Yes.
Just go live your dream and then.
Absolutely, because there's no point just because I'm married, I have to suffer in this marriage till death do us apart. No, you can be happy. You can be happy. Happiness is a choice.
Wonderful. I think it's a beautiful line to end
Yeah.
with. Happiness is a choice. This has been most enlightening, and there's so many subtle nuances to this, especially in our modern times where we're seeing this. India is slowly waking up to this. Like, it was a big shock for me when I went to Denmark and I heard that they had a divorce rate of 51% at that time. And now I see that, okay, this is becoming more and more common here. But we are, I think, approaching it in the right, mature way. And you are really doing an amazing job with that, Kavyal. So respect and thank you for
Thank you,
giving us
Satya.
this time. Yeah,
Thank you
love
so very
and
much.
Full
And
power to you, always. Yeah.
the only one thing that I have to say to people is that our broken relationships teach us everything we need to know about love. So don't run away from it. If something is broken, take your lessons from it and carry the lessons in your next relationship. And you will find love again.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.